Namaste. Welcome back to Smriti. We have Dr. Jambunathan Ramanathan Garu. He's going to lead us and share the nuggets in our Vedas, Vedanta, Upanishads, on particularly Nyaya Shastra and Mimamsa. Thank you.
Okay.
Really appreciate you being here. The Smriti viewers want to know, we have heard about Nyaya Shastra, the empowering message that we have received from ages, from our Vedas, Vedic culture, Vedic wisdom and tradition. We have also heard about Mimamsa. And when I was looking for some experts that can share the wisdom, I was directed to you by one of our friends. And such an honor to have found you. And you were so willingly agreed to share it. So we would like to know what Nyaya Shastra is. What does it mean? What is the definition of it? Where is it originating from? And as a subsequent question to you was, what made you interested? What led you to study more in depth? So if you can really take us on a journey, please welcome and do share.
Namaste, Satyani Garu. I think it's a pleasure again being with you and the Smriti member group.
Thank you.
I think the Nyaya and Mimamsa Shastra, again, let me answer that question in two parts. Okay. Because one question is, where does it fit in the scheme of our Hindu scriptures and yes, what is its role? And the second question is, how did my interest sprout on that particular topic? Mm-hmm. So, I will give, it's a two-faced answer. I just want to tell a small sloka from the Yajnavalkya Smriti, and and that way we'll know the introduction of it. Sage Yajnavalkya, we have Smritis which gives us all the guidelines of how to live a life, and it says Angani Vedas Chatvaro Mimamsa Nyaya Vistaraha Puranam Dharma Shastram cha Vidya Hetur Chaturuddasha. So that is what Sage Yajnavalkya, the famous Yajnavalkya Rishi, gives. It divides the education part of Hinduism into 14. Chaturuddasha means 4 plus 10, 14. Mm-hmm. And he says, Angani Vedas Chatvaro. There are 4 Vedas, Vedas Chatvaro. The Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharvana Veda. Mm-hmm. And we call Vedangas, which are the kind of the subsidiaries to the Vedas. The Nirukta, the Vyakarana, Jyotisha, Kalpa, Chandas, Siksha, all come under the Vedangas, and basically use the Vedangas. They help you to refine the study of the Vedas. It is like you learn English, but you learn English grammar too. Basically there is a section where you're reading Shakespeare's and all the stories, but then there's a class which just teaches you on grammar. So if you take Shakespeare as the Vedas, the grammar is the Vyakarna. That's a simple way of putting it. So you learn both the subject and also the grammar which goes along with it. So the Vedas have always had to be learned with the Vedanga so that you get more proficient and more complete. But this is 4 plus 6, 10. And then comes Puranam and Dharma Shastra. Puranas are all our Puranas, Shiva Purana, Bhagavata Purana, all the 18 major Puranas. And the Itihasas are included part of it, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Dharma Shastras are all our edicts, basically they tell you when you should take a bath, when you should eat, what precautions you should take before you eat and all that stuff, all those rules. And then comes the Nyaya and Mimamsa. Puranam, Dharma Shastram, Nyaya, Chaturdasha. Nyaya and Mimamsa are listed separately. So 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas will be 10. Yeah. Dharma Shastra is 11. Purana is 12. Nyaya is 13. And Mimamsa is 14. That's how the 14 count comes. And then there is 4 more which is added, because there is a lot of places where even Adi Shankara himself says Ashtadasha. Ashtadasha is 8 plus 10, 18. They classify it because the Rig Veda has part of it the Ayurveda. Rig Veda subsidiary is Ayurveda, which is the science of health. Yajurveda subsidiary is Dhanurveda, which is the artery of military and warfare. Samaveda subsidiary is Gandharva Veda, which is the art, all the arts comes under that. And Atharva Veda subsidiary is Ardhashastra or Shilpa Shastra, all the science of construction and economy all come under that. So basically, you have the science of health, science of warfare, science of arts, and then the science of politics and economics and everything comes under that. So 14 plus 4, 18. So this is what, generally everybody will, all our Hindu acharyas will say, we have our scriptures are Ashtadasha Ragasyas. So they will be the 18, that's how it comes. So Nyaya and Mimamsa is part of this 18, whether you consider Chaturdasha or Ashtadasha, whichever you consider, Nyaya and Mimamsa are a very intrinsic part of it. So it is a part of the syllabus, let's put it that way. If you're going to go to medicine, you have to learn anatomy, physiology. So if you have to learn Hinduism, you have to learn a little bit of Nyaya and Mimamsa too. And that's where it fits in the scheme of things. But what is its role? Basically, all of this brought only from the Vedas. Manu, the famous Manu Dharma Shastra says, Vedo Akila Dharma Moolam. Vedas are the root for all dharma. So everything comes only from the Vedas. So anything you have to trace it back, its origin, it has to be traced back to the Vedas only. So the Nyaya, Mimamsa are all still outsprouts of the Vedas only. And there is a way how they came up. Because like I was telling, Hinduism has three parts. One is intuitionistic. Second one is rationalistic. And third is mystic, which is there are certain things which are supernormal things which you can't understand yourself, but they are happening. And, there is some laws governing those supernormal things too. And people and the miracles, everything will come under that. And the mysticism is there. So we cannot ignore that part, but it is there in Hindu religion. But then the two important components are intuitionistic and rationalistic. So we are just not mystic people who have all these powers to do what they want or to foresee the future and things. But there's a lot of intuition and rationalism also in Hinduism. So that's why it's important that we are just not a blind faith. There is a lot of, you have to deduce and you also have to be rationalistic comes there. So I think the Nyaya Shastra is actually, which is the rationalistic part. To take the same, I would say, so we consider logic as Western logic and Eastern logic. Aristotle is considered the father of Western logic. Alexander's guru, Aristotle is where he's the one who actually said, because he said, like you regulate your speech. How do you regulate your speech? Grammar. You need grammar because if you don't know grammar, you can blabber anything. Because there is grammar, you have to put the past tense correctly, the future tense correctly. So it is grammar which regulates your speech.
Yes.
Aristotle was all the one said, well, you need something to regulate your thought. Your thoughts cannot be just jumbled thoughts. You need to be coherent in your thought. You need to express it correctly. People have to understand you correctly. There should be some kind of a regulation of your thought process. So that's when logic comes. Like grammar regulates your speech, logic regulates your thoughts. So that's how, that's how the birth of logic. That's how Aristotle, Western logic, he's the father of the Western logic. And then there are Francis Bacon later, about several centuries ago, redefined the terms of logic. So that's how the Western logic is. So the Eastern logic is where, the Hindu logic, it actually precedes even Aristotelian logic. It was way before Aristotle, had wrote its initial definitions of logic and things. Right. So, because if you read, there is in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is a very big Upanishad, and there is a discussion between sage Yajnavalkya again and his wife Maitreyi. There is a very famous Maitreyi Vidya, it's called in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And at one statement, Maitreyi wants to learn. Yajnavalkya is trying to give her gifts. He said, I don't want gifts. Tell me what can make me immortal. And that's when he said only the learning of the science of Atma can make you immortal. Everything else makes you only mortal. So then teach me about the Atma. That's how the teaching goes. Nice. And at that time, Yajnavalkya says to his wife, Atma va drashtavya, shrotavya, mantavya, nidhitasitavya. He puts those terms. Maitreyi, you have to learn about the Atma. You have to reflect on its concept. And then you meditate. So again, the meditation is not a blind meditation. You first learn what is this Atma or Brahman. Then you have to reflect and, your mind and come to a reasonable conclusion that this is true and this is factual. And then you start your process of contemplating and meditating. So there is a clear statement by Yajnavalkya Rishi that you have to reflect and you have to analyze. Manana, Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana is the Manana part represents the reflection and analysis part. So there is a statement very clearly in the Vedas too. You have to analyze it, you have to reflect on it, and those things are there. And there are few more, but this is the most famous one.
Mm.
And when Nachiketa talks to Yama in Katha Upanishad too, Yama says this, but then Yama goes one step further and says, Nachiketa, logic is important, but logic alone will not take you to the goal also. So he says that's where we believe in Hinduism, the God's grace, the Guru's grace, and your punya, papa, karmas are also there. So Yama puts it very succinctly to Nachiketa. He says, logic is very important, analysis is important, but that alone is not going to take you to the goal. So we have to understand that logic is very essential, but it's not going to be the finality also in our religion. So that's why we put it there. So that's where the Nyaya and the Mimamsa part actually is, with the Vedas, there's people broadly divide the Vedas into the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda. Karma Kanda talks about all the rituals, and Jnana Kanda is with the Upanishad, it gives you all the who is God, how to reach God, and all that stuff. It's the knowledge part and the ritual part. So, for example, in medicine, we have guidelines. So, let's say, how do you treat hypertension or how do you treat diabetes? There are all these big societies, a lot of very expert physicians get together and they develop guidelines. Okay, if you're diabetic, you start with this first medication. If you don't get better, you add this medication. So, there's all these steps and things. So, the guidelines are guidelines, but then somebody is going to ask you, on what basis did you get these guidelines? So then they're going to say there is a research which was done, which compared all these drugs and they found this is better than the other. So there is a rationale behind the guidelines. So guidelines are going to be just statements. Mm-hmm. Each statement has a lot of research behind it, and there is and that's what we call the guidelines and the rationale behind the guidelines. So same thing, the Kalpa Sutras of the Vedas, they're just going to tell you guidelines. Okay, you're going to do this. If you want to do this Homa, this is step number 1. Step number 2, step number 3, and you need all these particular items for this. So it's just going to give you a guideline book. So the Mimamsa is more like the rationale. So the Kalpa Sutras are guidelines, whereas the Mimamsa gives you the rationale behind the guidelines. Why did I make that as the first step? Why did I make it as a second step? And again, the Mimamsa utilizes only the Vedas itself to tell, based on this Vedic statement, that is why I chose this to be the first step of this Homa. This is the second step of the Homa. So basically the Mimamsa actually tries to rationalize the ritualistic part. So the ritualist part, also there is a rationale behind the ritual. So the Mimamsa started out of it. The basic goal of Mimamsa was just to give you a framework of why we are doing what we are doing. But then that was a very well developed science. It later Mimamsa became the rule for interpreting everything. Okay, the Mimamsa rules are so great. In fact, the Dharma Shastra peoples also, for example, some people will tell Amavasya starts now. Some people will tell Amavasya starts in a couple of hours, whatever, thing. And when you have to do those decisions, you have to use the Mimamsa guidelines to see why are you telling Amavasya starts only now? Or why you should tell you're doing Ganga Stanam only this time. They have to tell the Dharma, they should tell the Mimamsa rules and tell using these Mimamsa rules only, I am framing that this should be the first step and second step. So the Mimamsa later became, and not only that, when the British came to India, some of these British scholars, they were very much into reading our religion and other things. Some read it with a good mind, some read it with the idea of destroying it too. So there were both ends. We had some Britishers who were really into Hinduism, and so they did found this Mimamsa to be very, very enterprising, and they said we should use the same to develop the Indian laws, like the secular laws, not the religious. The Mimamsa talks about the religious laws, but all the secular laws what we have in the community. So they used to even have Mimamsa as a guideline to even develop secular laws and how to interpret a law, everything, because the science of Mimamsa deals with all that. So it not only gives you what procedures you're doing, but tells you why you're doing, why did you choose this particular sequence, and in fact, how to interpret a sentence. So coming to that, for example, I will tell you, like, if you go to our Acharya, Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, each of their gurus are still here in their lineage. There is a very famous statement we call Pada, Vakya, Pramana, Parivrajaka, Paramahamsa. This is the title given to a big sannyasi. If you're a big Acharya, you should have actually all the 5 qualifications. Pada, Vakya, Pramana, Parivrajaka, Paramahamsa. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa you would have heard. Paramahamsa basically means you are very renounced, which means you are not, you don't have any materialistic pursuit at all. That is the simple thing. You have renounced everything in the world. You have no attachment to anything materialistic in the world. That is the term Paramahamsa means. You are extremely renunciate. You are not dependent on any material things for your life. Parivrajaka means one who is constantly roaming around, because the sannyasis are not supposed to stay in one place. Because if you stay in one place, you will get attachment. You will get, I start liking this house, or I start liking the environment, whatever it is. So the Parivrajaka means you should be always in motion, because that way you don't get attached to one place. So the Parivrajaka and Paramahamsa kind of go together. You have to move all around, then only you don't get attachment. And if you are superiorly non-attached, you call a Paramahamsa. Then comes but preceding that there is Pada Vakya Pramana. What is this Pada Vakya Pramana means? Pada means Pada Shastra. Vakya means Vakya Shastra. Pramana means Pramana Shastra. So you should be an expert on all these three. So you should just not be renunciate and doing meditation and getting away from people.
Yeah.
You should be a master in Pada Shastra, Vakya Shastra and Pramana Shastra. What is Pada Shastra is basically the science of word. Padam means word, W-O-R-D, word.
Yes.
Vakya means science of sentence. The sentence is called Vakyam. So, and then Pramana means proof. Pramana means proof. So you should be a master of word science, a master of sentence science, and a master of proofs. So because same thing like I was saying, if we say in diabetic use this medication, a good doctor should be able to give a proof why is this medication considered the best. You should tell, we did a big study, we had 1,000 people, we gave 500 people this medication, we gave 500 people the other medication, we followed them for 1 year. At the end of 1 year, people on this 500 medications, they had better outcomes than people on this. So that's why we are choosing this as a better drug. You have to give all these detailed research what you did. So that's why the pramanas are proofs. You have to give a proof. Why are you telling this? Why are you doing that? So the Pada Shastra is Vyakarana, which is grammar. So you should be a master in Vyakarana, that's the science of words. Vakya Shastra is actually science of Mimamsa. So I was just telling, and Pramana Shastra is nothing but Nyaya Shastra. So basically, even to be a big sannyasi, you should be a master of Vyakarana, Mimamsa, and Nyaya Shastra. It's a title, it's an honorific title. It is given to most of the sannyasis. Pada Vakya Pramana, Parivarajaka Paramahamsa, Chandrasekharendra Saraswati Swami. They will tell like that. So that is the honorific titles like you are getting, So you should be even a religious guru. You are expected to be a master of all these things. So you see, we'll forget the Vyakarana part, but we'll focus on the Vakya Shastra part and the Pramana Shastra part, which is Mimamsa and Nyaya. So this is an expectation too. To be a big guru, it's an expectation for you to learn that.
Yes. Yeah.
And because you cannot just be imposing blind faith on people. There is a faith component, but like I said, intuitionistic, rationalistic, and mystic component. You cannot just emphasize the mystic component all the time. So that's why you need to be well trained to be at least an expert in logic and all these to explain to the people in a rationalistic way what things are and why things are like that. So that's where the Vakya Shastra, Mimamsa, I already told you one thing about Mimamsa. I told it's the way it rationalizes all the ritualistic procedure.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually a ritualistic manual. And also it explains the science of sentences. How do you interpret a sentence? Like I say, what is a good sentence? Like sometimes you can say something absurd. For example, there's a very clear rule in Mimamsa, Akanksha, Sanyata, and Yogyata. I will tell you this. For example, if I wake up today morning and say, I want, then the rest of the day I don't speak. Next day morning I say, a cup of. I don't speak anything the rest of the day. Third morning I speak water. So basically all I'm telling is, I want a cup of water. But if you say the same word very, very spaced out, it will not make sense. Because if I say I want today, and then a cup of tomorrow, and water third day, so this is very, very important. It says the account should be very closely, the Sannidhi should be there. I want a cup of water should be said within this particular time frame, then only it will make meaning. I'm just giving an example. Even if I tell even 2 hours apart, I want a cup of water, you won't understand the meaning.
Right.
So this is a very simple rule. So the Mimamsa, that's how because it has interpreted the Vedic sentences. So the Vedic sentences have to be interpreted appropriately. So it formulates all these rules. How can you interpret a sentence correctly? So that's how it's a Vakya Shastra. So it's a ritualistic Shastra. It's a Vakya Shastra. And then Mimamsa also tells, because in Hinduism, everything is finally tied up, how you can evolve yourself spiritually and finally liberate yourself. So that is the final goal of Hinduism. No matter what Acharya you follow or what subject of Hinduism you are, how can you spiritually evolve yourself and finally liberate yourself from the cycle of birth and death? So the Mimamsa also shows a way for that. So it's a Vakya Shastra, it's a Karma Shastra, it's also a Darshana. The term we use Darshana is when it gives you a way. Darshana means you can see. When it gives you a way to liberate yourself, that's what you call a Darshana. So even Nyaya Shastra is considered a Darshana by itself. Vedanta is considered a Darshana. These are all branches which will finally tell you a way how to get rid of the sufferings or liberate yourself, what Buddha calls nirvana or whatever, So you can come to that state. So the Nyaya, the Mimamsa is a Vakya Shastra, Karma Shastra and a Darshana. Whereas Nyaya Shastra on the same thing, I said, it's a Pramana Shastra. It is how you provide proofs for everything what you say. So you have to rationalize your arguments. So it is a Pramana Shastra because it wants you to be rationalized, coherent on what you're telling that. And it's also a Darshana because at the end of the road, it's going to tell you how to liberate yourself too. So a Nyaya Shastra is both a science of logic and inference, but also a science of liberation. But what comes is finally when Adi Shankara and all the gurus came, they did find that there were some pitfalls in Nyaya and Mimamsa. So they said you cannot use Nyaya and Mimamsa as a Darshana. That's what our great Acharyas Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, whom we consider the religious gurus, they agreed that everybody needs to learn Nyaya and Mimamsa because there is, like I said, whatever I've said so far.
Yeah.
But you cannot use it as a sole basis for liberating yourself. You have to come to Vedanta. So they put the Nyaya and Mimamsa or subordinate to Vedanta. So basically they put Vedanta is where you will finally get your liberation by understanding the concepts of the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutra. All those are important. That is where you can understand and when you understand it and implement it in practice, that's how we end up liberating yourself. But the Nyaya Mimamsa study is very essential. It's like a prelude. I have to do undergrad before I can do a PhD. So Vedanta is like PhD. Nyaya and Mimamsa are like undergrad. So you have to do an undergrad first so that you can be a good PhD student. So one who knows Nyaya Mimamsa alone could be a good Vedanta student. There are people who read Vedanta without that, but it's like same thing. Would you be able to be a very good understander or speaker of the Vedanta? You need to have the Nyaya Mimamsa. That alone will make you more sharper, because the whole goal of Nyaya and Mimamsa, which our Acharyas, later Acharyas have said is, they are important. They are not the end of it, but learning them actually sharpens your thought process and helps you understand the nuances of Vedanta better. So they put Nyaya Mimamsa as not a separate Darshana, but as a branch under Vedanta itself. And that's why Ramanuja, more than Shankara, Ramanuja insists that you cannot read my Sri Bhashya without reading the Mimamsa Shastra. He puts it as in his first Atato Brahma Jignasa is the first line of Brahma Sutra. Atato Brahma Jignasa means, after that, let me learn about Brahman. Atato Brahma Jignasa means, after that, I will learn Brahman. After what? The question comes, after what will you learn Brahman? So you cannot learn about Brahman directly. After that only, what is that after that? And there's a sharp difference between Ramanuja and Shankara on that. What is the prelude? So you have to do something before you go to read Vedanta. That something is where there's a difference between Adi Shankara and Ramanuja. Ramanuja's goal is you have to read the Mimamsa Shastra. After you master the Mimamsa Shastra, then you learn about Brahma Shastra, which is the Upanishad part. So that is where, so Ramanuja, Adi Shankara also emphasizes, but he doesn't put that as a most important prelude. He says you need to know the basic rules of Mimamsa to understand Vedanta better. So he also emphasizes learning, but between these two, Ramanuja puts a much more higher emphasis on learning Mimamsa than Adi Shankara. So that is where, and the scheme of things, where Nyaya falls and the Mimamsa falls. So it is Nyaya is a science of logic and a science of liberation. And Mimamsa is a science of sentences, Karma Shastra, and also a science of liberation in its original term. But now they agreed you should keep it only as a science of rationalism now and a science of interpreting sentences now. That's what you should use, and use it to help the study of Vedanta is what our acharyas have reconciled that, and they still kept the importance. And that's why still even the sannyasis today have to learn that, to become a real acharya or a guru.
I have learned so much, and it really made me pause, think, and place things where they should be. I'm just marveled at your explanation, and I'm sure our viewers too. Such an honor. Thank you so much for your time and the enthusiasm. And well, I will leave it here. Give a pause. I have to go. You have given me so much homework to reflect back, definitely. And so thank you again. And what are you going to share in the next episode? We can go a bit deeper. Which would you like to tackle?
I think, the first I want, and I just, after this introduction, at least I want to give a history. I want to, give the recognition of the people who are actually helped us grow this Nyaya from its roots to where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
I also would like to share some interesting, because there is a Buddhist logic. There's the Eastern logic as a Buddhist logic and the Hindu logic, and actually both of them made each of them grow in a way. Both of them were competitive to each other, but actually each of them enriched the other one too, because and so I think it's important to know a little bit of the history of their evolution to where the Shastras came and how they evolved and where they are now. So I think we'll go about knowing some of the the history of the Nyaya and Mimamsa. I would let's focus on Nyaya at one session and Mimamsa other session, and then we will go through the history of the revolution and what and all happened and where they are right now. I think that's what we'll start first. And then once we get, and then also the different personalities and who made I would say spectacular contributions to this field, we'll have to remember them. And that's a way of honoring them. We don't build temples for these people. We don't build any museums for these people, but at least we should know their names and what they did or what what they've achieved. And then after that, after a few more sessions, we'll actually get into the the nuts and bolts of what Nyaya, what is the logic part of Nyaya, the Darshana part of the Nyaya, and things like that.
Amazing. I just can't wait and really appreciate. Thank you. And we shall see you soon again in the next episodes. Thank you all. So please do share your comments on Facebook, on our Facebook page. Visit our website, smriti.upasana.net, and follow us on YouTube. Do subscribe. Thank you. Namaste.